Okay, good morning, everyone. We are on Lamed Hey Amud Beis. Hope you have a piece of paper and a pen. If you don't, you're in trouble. Zek the Gemara. Yesterday we said that we have a few different things we're dealing with. Kfuras Meis, Avoda, Ritzicha, Shabbos. So we said the following. Avoda is Doche Shabbos. Pasuk says you bring korbanos on Shabbos. Shabbos is Doche Ritzicha, Lo Tvaresh B'chol Mashvasechem, so beit-din doesn't kill anybody on Shabbos. If Avoda pushes off Shabbos, and Shabbos pushes off Ritzicha, then by a Kal V'chomer, the Avoda should push off Ritzicha, which means that if a Kohen is Chayiv Misa, because he killed somebody, then the Kal V'chomer would tell us that the Avoda should push off the Ritzicha, and he should be able to do the Avoda before we go ahead and we kill him. However, we said that Ritzicha is Doche Avoda. So what exactly is going on? We said yesterday Ritzicha is Doche Avoda from the pasuk Me'im is Bachiti Chen Lamos. So let's see what's going on. Amar Abai. Hashdi Amar Spanam Alam Hey Amud Beis, 6 lines up. Hashdi Amar Ein Ritzicha Doche Shabbos. Again, it's a little confusing because it's Ein Ritzicha, but Ein Ritzicha Doche Shabbos means Shabbos is Doche Ritzicha. Now that he said Shabbos is Doche Ritzicha, Ein Ritzicha Doche Avoda Mikal V'chomer. Then Ein Ritzicha Doches Avoda Mikal V'chomer. So again, if you have number one Avoda is Doche Shabbos and number two Shabbos is Doche Avoda, so then Avoda is Shabbos is Doche Ritzicha, then Avoda is Doche Ritzicha from a Kal V'chomer. Uma Shabbos and Nichel Avoda Ein Ritzicha Doche Osa Avoda She Doche Shabbos and Nishalote Ritzicha Doche Osa. That's the Kal V'chomer. Avoda Shabbos, Shabbos Ritzicha. Therefore Avoda is Doche Ritzicha. But you said yesterday we have the pasuk on Me'im is B'chiti Chen Olamos. Says the Gemara, Hula Korban Yachid Lo Dachi Shabbos. This is where we stopped yesterday. So Abai is basically saying as follows. From number 1 and number 2 and number 3, you have 3 things. Avoda Doche Shabbos, Shabbos Doche Ritzicha, Ritzicha Doche Avoda. From number 1 and number 2, you have a Kal V'chomer, that Avoda is Doche Ritzicha. That's the Kal V'chomer. Number 3 doesn't ruin the Kal V'chomer. You just told me Me'im is B'chiti Chen Olamos, that Ritzicha is Doche Avoda from the pasuk, and you just told me that there's a Kal V'chomer Avoda Shabbos, Shabbos Ritzicha, therefore Avoda is Doche Ritzicha. He's saying no, it's a separate case. That's only by a Korban Yachid. By a Korban Yachid, Avoda is not Doche Shabbos, and therefore the Kal V'chomer only applies by a Korban Tzibor. Avoda Doche Shabbos, Shabbos Doche Ritzicha, Avoda Doche Ritzicha. That's by a Korban Tzibor. If the Kohen is going to bring a Korban Tzibor, the Korban Tamid, the Korban Musaf, then Eina Chanami Avoda is Doche Ritzicha, and he can yell, too bad, you can't take me away to kill me until I finish the Avoda. That's Avoda Doche Ritzicha. However, the Pasuk Me'im is B'chiti Chen Olamos, that Avoda is not Doche Ritzicha, that when he's going to run and do the Avoda, we're going to kill him anyway, that's by a Korban Yachid. What about the Kal V'chomer? There is no Kal V'chomer by Korban Yachid, because the whole Kal V'chomer is based on Avoda Doche Shabbos, Shabbos Doche Ritzicha. Avoda of a Korban Yachid is not Doche Shabbos. Therefore, you have no Kal V'chomer. You have the pasuk which is coming to say Me'im is B'chiti Chen Olamos. Literally from the Mizbeach you take him to kill him, and Lamaisa you end up with again Avoda Doche Shabbos, Shabbos Doche Ritzicha. That is by Avoda Doche Ritzicha by Korban Tzibor, and Ritzicha Doche Avoda by Korban Yachid. Zag the Gemara. Amar Rava says, nice try, but I don't agree. If that's true, you want to start getting fancy on me and make all these Kal V'chomers, I'll give you a Kal V'chomer. What's that? The Kal V'chomer is so we know that Yantiv is Nidchem Ibnei Korban Yachid. That means a Korban Yachid is Doche Yantiv. Even though a Korban Yachid is not Doche Shabbos, if I want to bring a personal Korban, it's not Doche Shabbos. If I want to bring a personal Korban, it's Doche Yantiv. Ein Ritzicha Doche Osa, and yet what? Yom Tov is Doche Ritzicha. Korban Yachid is Doche Yantiv, and Yantiv is Doche Ritzicha. What does that give us a Kal V'chomer? Korban Yachid is Doche Ritzicha, which is not what we're saying now. Korban Yachid Shu Doche Yantiv Eino Din Shalote Ritzicha Doche Osa. Therefore, again, if Korban Yachid is Doche Yantiv and Yantiv is Doche Ritzicha, then a Korban Yachid should be Doche Ritzicha. So you just told me that a korban yachid is not doche retzicha. Says the Gemara, Hanicha leman diamar ein nidar mudavos kraven biyantiv. If you say that a korban yachid is not doche yantiv, then I understand why a korban yachid is not doche retzicha, because in a chanami a korban yachid is not doche yantiv. You have no kavachomer. Elaman diamar nidar kraven biyantiv ma'ikal meimar. You really have to write this out to understand it, but again we're trying. Elaman diamar nidar kraven biyantiv ma'ikal meimar. If in fact yantiv is doche, if a korban yachid is doche yantiv and yantiv is doche retzicha, then by definition a korban yachid is doche retzicha. So the Gemara, elamarava. So the Gemara, elamarava lo mi bayi Laman diamar nidar daras keren biyantiv dehalom iskayim imiz b'chi klal. Elafil laman diamar nidar daras ein keren biyantiv hachsiv meimiz b'chi mizbechi hamiyuchad li umay ninu tamid v'amar rachmana meimiz b'chi tikachenu lamos. So again, what's he saying here? It's a little bit complicated, but what's he saying? We said again, Abaye said that avoda is doche retzicha. What did he say? That means that's avoda b'tzibor. That means a korban tzibor is going to push off killing this kohen. He'll get killed, but not until he finishes the avoda. He'll get killed later, but not until he finishes the avoda. But we said me'imiz b'chi tikachenu lamos is that if he's going to bring a korban yachid, we are going to get rid of him, and we're not going to let him bring the korban yachid. So again, avoda b'tzibor doche retzicha, avoda b'yachid is not doche retzicha. Fine. Retzicha is doche avoda b'yachid. Comes along Rav and says we have a little bit of a problem, because we have the fact that a kavachomer tells us that retzicha should be pushed off for a korban yachid as well. That means if he's running to do a korban yachid, it should be pushed off as well. Why? Because a korban yachid is doche yantiv, and yantiv is doche retzicha. And therefore, a korban yachid should be doche retzicha, right? That's what he says on the top. Ma yantiv shenidchem ibnei korban yachid ein retzicha doiche osa. If you have yantiv, which is nidcha because of a korban yachid, it means a korban yachid is brought on yantiv, ein retzicha doiche osa. But we don't go ahead and we don't kill somebody on yantiv. Korban yachid shehu doche as yantiv. If a korban yachid is doche yantiv, eino din shelo tehe retzicha doiche osa. So then for sure, Ritzicha should not be doche osa. I want to make sure I'm getting this right. One second. Again, I just want to read this. Just want to make sure I'm getting it right. Amarava. Ihachi, lo tehe Ritzicha doche korban yachid mikava chomer. Korban yachid should be doche Ritzicha. Why should korban yachid be? Again, we said only a korban tzibor is doche Ritzicha. Again, Ritzicha here means killing the kohen. Ma yantiv shenidchem ibnei korban yachid. We bring a korban yachid on yantiv, ein ritzicha doiche osa. If we bring a korban yachid on yantiv, so ritzicha is not doche yantiv. That means that we don't kill somebody on yantiv, just like we don't kill somebody on Shabbos. We don't kill somebody on yantiv. So again, korban yachid pushes off yantiv. So korban yantiv is pushed off by korban yachid. Korban yachid pushes off yantiv. Korban yachid shehu doche es yantiv, eino din shelo tehe retzicha doiche osa. That a korban yachid which pushes off yantiv is not a din that retzicha should not be doche osa. That a korban yachid should not be pushed off by retzicha. Right. So nichlam number. So again, we have a kavachomer. Korban yachid is doche yantiv, yom tov is doche retzicha. Therefore, a korban yachid should be doche retzicha. Not like Abaye says. Rava says, me'imiz b'chi. So let's read that last part. Me'imiz b'chi. Elafilu man damar dvaras in kram b'yantiv d'chsi me'imiz b'chi mizbechi hamiyuchad li umay ninhu tamid v'amar rachmana me'imiz b'chi tikachenu lamos. Fine. So here's what happens. Abaye comes along and says, korban tzibor is not pushed off. So korban tzibor lamaisa pushes off the retzicha, ena chanami, and the guy can finish the avoda. A korban yachid is pushed off, and that's from the Kavachomer. Avoda docha Shabbos, Shabbos docha Ritzicha, Ritzicha docha Avoda is only by Korban Tzibor. By Korban Yachid, we know that Lamaisa, he's not going to be able to do it. However, over here comes along Abaye, comes along Rava, and Rava says that the pasuk of Me'im mizbechi tikachenu lamus doesn't just apply to pulling him away from a korban yachid, it applies to pulling him away from a korban sibor as well. That means you thought from a kavachomer that lemaisa, when it comes to a korban sibor, we're not going to pull him away from the avodah in order to kill him. Comes along Rava and says, no, me'im mizbachi tikachenu lamus. If it would have just said me'im mizbeach tikachenu lamus, you would have thought that when he's doing a korban yachid, you pull him away and you kill him. Me'im mizbechi, says the Gemara, is mizbeach hamiyuchad li. What's the mizbeach that's miyuchat HaKadosh Baruch Hu? What's God's special mizbeach? Well, something that's special is something that's constant, something that's always. What's an example of a constant thing that's on the mizbeach? The korban tamid. So if it's saying that me'im mizbechi tikachenu lamus, in essence what it's saying is, you pull him away from my mizbeach. You pull him away from doing my avoda, i.e. even a korban sibor. And therefore, me'im mizbechi tikachenu lamus, says Rava, is going to apply bein b'yachid, bein b'tzibor. And that's the machlokes Abaye and Rava. Abaye says, you only pull him away when he's doing a korban yachid, not when he's doing a korban sibor, because you have a kavachomer by a korban sibor. And Rava is going to say, no, me'im mizbechi tikachenu lamus, you pull him away even from the korban sibor. Which, again, at first glance would seem to make more sense, that you wouldn't let him do the avodah when he's chayiv misa, but, again, that's the machlokes. Zok the Gemara. What? The chiddush is that, according to Abaye, you would not pull him away. Because of the kavachomer, when he's doing a korban sibor, you would not pull him away. He goes and he kills somebody, he runs to do the avodah. You would think that a guy who's chayav misa is not going to be able to do the avodah. Comes along and Abaye says he could still do the avodah, and we can't pull him away, because the avodah is docha the retzicha. Zog the Gemara, dinei mamanos hatmeos v'ataharos. So the Gemara says that dinei mamanos hatmeos v'ataharos, what do? You start with the biggest guy. By dinei nefashos, you start with the smallest judge. Because in general, we want to give kavod to the biggest guy, the biggest judge, I should say. But at the end of the day, we're afraid that once he passes something, everybody's going to listen to him. So by dinei mamanos, again, it's not for sure that everybody's going to listen to him, but we're afraid. So by dinei mamanos, not such a big deal. Tmeos and Torah is not such a big deal if people actually take guidance from the biggest rav there, the biggest judge. But by dinei nefashos, we're worried that once he says the guy's chayav, if he says chayav, nobody's going to go ahead and say he's zakai. We want to try to make him zakai. Of course, if we knew he was going to say zakai, we would let him go first. But since we don't know if he's going to say zakai or chayav, we're afraid he's going to say chayav and everybody's going to follow him. Says the Gemara, Amarav Havi b'minyana debei Rabbi, uminai didi Havi maschile bereisha. So Rav says, I was part of Rebbe's court in Dinei Mamanos. Who should we start with in Dinei Mamanos in Rebbe's court? Rebbe, the greatest person. And yet, Rav says we started with me. Ve'anan malchile min hagadol tanan, Amarabba brei Rava, v'itema Rav Hillel brei Rebbe, Vals, Shani minyana debei Rebbe, dekulu minyana min hatzad havu maschile. And Rebbe's court, you're right. In general, by Dinei Mamanos, you should always start with the greatest. However, Rebbe was a big anav, says Rashi. He was humble. Since he was humble, even though Lamaisa, they should have always started with him, he was docha, not docha, he was mochel as kavod, and Lamaisa, he said, you don't have to start with me. And that's why they started with Rav. So Amar Rabba, Brei de Rava, V'Tamer Rav Hillel, Brei de Ravals. Mimos Moshe, V'Yad Rebbe, Lo Matzinu Torah, Gedola B'Makom Echad. From the times of Moshe until Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, you had people that were the greatest people in Torah. You had the leader of the generation in Torah. You had the leader of the Jewish people in Nesius as the leader, but you never had somebody who was both. The leader in Torah and the leader as the leader of the Jewish people. Sak the Gemara. What? Oh, you learned this already. Below. Is it not true? Ha ha hava Yoshua. There was Yoshua. So it seems like all of these answers are going to be rejecting the fact that the question is going to be, wasn't there somebody who was just as great in Torah? And the Gemara is going to say, this person was just as great in Torah. Wasn't this person the greatest in Torah and in Nesius and in leading the Jewish people? There was another person that was as great as them in Torah. The last one is going to be, there was another person who was greater than them and leading the Jewish people. But most of the rejections here are going to be, no, there was somebody else that was just as great as them at Torah. So the Gemara, where do we see? Hahava Yoshua. We're going to bring different suggestions of somebody who was great in both, the greatest in both at his time. Hav Elazar. Elazar was just as great as Yoshua when it came to Torah. Yoshua was the greatest leader of his generation, but Elazar was just as great when it came to Torah. Hava Pinchas. Hava Zikanim. They were just as great in Torah as Pinchas. Hava Shaul. Hava Shmuel. Shmuel was just as great as Shaul in Torah. V'hanach nafshe. But Shmuel died during Shaul's reign. So at some point, Shaul was the strongest leader, as the Melech, let's say, and he was also the biggest Talmud Chacham in the world. Kula Shani Kamrina. No, Rabbah was saying that there was nobody who their entire life. You're right, there was a point in Shaul's life where he was the greatest of both. But since Shmuel was around during his lifetime, so there was not his entire lifetime, as opposed to Rebbe and opposed to Moshe, that once they became the greatest in Torah and the greatest as the leader, they never lost that title. Shmuel took away that title from Shaul, not that he took it away, but he was just as great as him in learning while he was alive. Hava David, Hava Ira HaYiri. Ira Yiri was just as great as him. V'anach Nafshe, Ira Yiri died in David's time. Again, Kula Shani Kamrinan. Yeah, but that means that David wasn't the greatest in both his entire life. Hava Shlomo, Hava Shimi ben Gera, who was just as great. V'akatle, Shlomo killed Shimi ben Gera, Kule Shani Kamrinan. But again, Shimi was around for at least part of Shlomo's life. Hava Chizkiah, Hava Shavna, V'ha'iktel, he killed Shavna, Kulu Shani Kamrinan. V'hava Ezra, Hava Nehemiah ben Chachilai. So Ezra was the greatest in both. Says the Gemara, Nehemiah ben Chachilai not was necessarily the greatest in or just as great in Torah, he was just as great as a leader in godless of the Jewish people. Amar Rav Ada Barava Afani Omer Mimos Rebbe Ad Rav Ashi Lamatzinu Torah Gdula B'Makom Echad. I'm adding that Rav Ashi himself was also one of these people. Velo, is it not true? Va'ava Huna Bar Nasan. So everybody agrees. You're right. Moshe, Rebbe, and Rav Ashi were the greatest in their generations for their entire time in Torah and in leadership. What about Rav Huna or Huna Bar Nasan? Huna Bar Nasan Mikaf Avakayef Leila Rav Ashi. No, Huna Bar Nasan was not the greatest because he himself was Mikaf. He made himself secondary to Rav Ashi. He said Rav Ashi is greater than me in Torah. And therefore, if I ask you who are the three, I'll tell you, at least at this point in the Gemara, Rebbe, Rav Ashi, and Moshe Rabbeinu. So the Gemara, Din and Nefashos matzchilim min atzad. By Din and Nefashos, we don't start with the greatest judge. We start with the tzad, because again, we don't want the greatest judge to say chayiv and everybody will follow him. Minan Emili. What's the source for this? Bottom Alam of Amud Aleph, 7 lines to the bottom. Amar Reb Acha bar Papa, Amar Kra lo taneh al riv, lo taneh al rav. When you look at the pasuk, it's spelled without a yud. So lo taneh al riv really means lo taneh al rav. It's written without a yud, and therefore you should not be machluk al mufla shel beit-din. You should not argue on a rav, on the person who's the greatest. And therefore, if he would go first, you wouldn't be able to argue on him. So we let everybody else go first, and the Maisa, they can hopefully say Zakai, and then even if he says Chayav, so the Maisa, the person would be Zakai. But if he would go first and say Chayav, everyone would have to say Chayav as well. Rabba bar Barchana Amar Rabbi Yochanan from a different pasuk. David tells his men to go ahead and take their swords first, and only later, Vayachor Gam David es Charbo. Only later did David take his Charbo. Amarav. New idea. Shona Adam leTalmido v'danimo b'dinei nefashos. If I need 23 judges for dinei nefashos, so one might think that a Talmud and a Rebbe cannot be on the same court, because what's going to happen? The Rebbe is clearly going to teach the Talmud what to say. When you have a shayla, you ask him what to say, and whatever he says, he's going to say. So it's basically like having 22 judges, because one judge is basically two people in one judge, because they're going to say exactly the same thing. Meisvei, but we have a problem, because it says Ataras v'atmeos avu beno arav v'talmido mon lehen shnayim. By Taras and Tumos, you can have a Rav and Talmido and an Avu beno. Why is that so? Because as Rashi says, by Tum and Dara, you really only need one. The only time you need two is if they can't come to a conclusion with one, etc. But really, since you only need one, so even if they're going to say the same exact thing, you only need one for those. But what about Dinei Mamanos, Dinei Nefashos, Dinei Makos, Kiddush Achodesh, V'Brashana? In that case, Avu b'no Rav Talmido ein mon lehen alacha. There can only be one, because at the end of the day, they're going to say the same exact thing. So how can you come ahead, Rav, and say that by Dinei Nefashos and surely by Dinei Mamanos, a Talmud and his Rebbe can be judges? How can they be two of the judges? Lamaisa, they're going to say the same exact thing. By definition, the student's going to say whatever the Rebbe says. It's not fair to the litigant. Kiko Amar Rav, Kigon Rav Kahana V'Ravasi, Deligmere Derav Havu Tzviche, Ulisvare Derav Lo Havu Tzviche. You're right. If there's a Rebbe and the student is totally dependent on the Rebbe, he tells him everything to do, he tells him what to eat, he tells him what to think, then in a Chanami, he can't be, because it's us having the same person twice. But if he's a person who gets his psak dinim from a Rebbe, like I can get my psak dinim from somebody, it doesn't necessarily mean that I don't understand the svara and I can't think about it and I can't apply it to other cases. Once in a while, I'll have to ask a shayla because the cases are a little bit different. But over here, where in general the guy understands stuff about halacha, he just has a rebbe to ask sometimes for the psak din, so then it's okay, because in this specific case, we're not worried that he's just going to do whatever his rebbe says. He's going to use his own svara, he's going to use his own brain in order to try to figure out what the din is in this case. But in a chanami, if you have a Talmud who just listens to everything, and it's okay at a certain point in learning as well. But if you have a Talmud who just listens to everything the Rebbe says and doesn't even think for himself and just sort of repeats everything that the Rebbe says, so in a chanami, he's going to go ahead and not be able to be on the same base in and because it won't be fair, because instead of having 23 judges, you really have 22 judges because you'll have two people that are always going to say the same thing. Amar Rabbi Abba. If you look at our Mishnah, it said, Asara dvarim yesh ben dinei mamanos l'dinei nefashos. V'kulan noagin b'shor niska chutz meyasim u'shlosha. As the Gemara all the way back on Beizim at Aleph said, that a case where a shor kills another person, so it says, Hashor yisakel v'gam ba'alav yumas. Now we know that the Baal doesn't actually die, he needs to pay. But it makes that comparison to teach us that even though a shor, when you're trying the shor, and you're going to kill the shor, it's not a case of capital punishment. Capital punishment is when you're dealing with a human being. Even though you're going to end up killing the shor, that's not capital punishment. So by the case of the shor, it's really dinei mamanos. So you would think that all 10 of the things that apply to dinei mamanos and not dinei nefashos would apply to a shor. Says the Gemara, there are 10 differences between dinei mamanos and dinei nefashos. All 9 out of 10 of the dinei mamanos apply to a shor. There's one exception based on that Mishnah on Beis Amid Aleph that says that based on the pasuk, we're going to say that a shor, when it's going to be tried in order to die for killing a human being, there's going to be 23. But again, for our purposes, we want to know that there's 10 differences. As an aside, the Gemara says that the 10 differences, 10 by dinei mamanos, 10 by dinei nefashos, 10 different things by dinei mamanos and dinei nefashos. A shor falls into the category of dinei mamanos, but there's one exception by a shor that we're going to treat it as dinei nefashos in terms of how many judges we need. Says the Gemara, minahani mili. How do we know that a dinei nefashos doesn't apply to the ox? If in fact you have this comparison of v'gam ba'alav yumas, and you're going to compare the case of the shor niskal to a regular case of dinei nefashos in terms of the number of judges, maybe you should just say that all 9 of the other things have to apply, and it should be a full-fledged dinei nefashos case. Says the Gemara, Maravacha bar Papa damar kra lo tatem mishpat evyoncha berivo mishpat evyoncha iatamateh. It's only by a regular capital case of a person that you have to be very careful with how you judge. Not that you have to be careful, but lo tatem mishpat is that you can't win by one, as we spoke about. It's only by evyoncha valatam matem mishpat shel shor haniskal. Shor haniskal doesn't have those dinim of a regular dinei nefashos case. Therefore, you can win by one. But again, we see that even though there's an exception that it needs 23, even though a dinei mamanos usually needs 3, the other 9 things of dinei mamanos all apply. So for all intents and purposes, the shor niskal is the case of dinei mamanos with one caveat, with one exception, that they need 23 judges and not 3. Says the Gemara, back to this idea of having 10 differences. And if you flip to a few pages back, a few dapim back, if you flip to the beginning of the parak, Lamed Beis Amid Aleph, you can count the 10 differences. So the Gemara now asks, but one second, Asara, Hatesav, if you count them, there's only 9. Says the Gemara, open up your eyes. Asara Ketani, there's 10. Okay. Mishum te'ena kol ksherin ve'esim u'shlosh achadi. So what are they arguing about? What's the misunderstanding over here? So we saw on Lamed Beis Amid Aleph that 2 of the differences is that we said that by dinei nefashos, hakol ksherin ladun dinei mamanos ve'ein hakol ksherin ladun dinei nefashos. Not everybody is kosher to do dinei nefashos. And the other thing we said is that dinei mamanos b'shlosha and dinei nefashos b'esim b'shlosha. Now I would have thought that these 2 things have nothing to do with each other. But at this point of the Gemara is a havamina that these 2 things should be counted as one. The fact that you need 23 and the fact that not everybody is kosher should be counted as one. Why? Because the Gemara says that a mamzer, as Rashi explains, a mamzer is really learned from both. What does that mean? Look at Rashi on the left side. Hatisha havu, it's a few lines down. V'hadita pina, etc. V'amar hayde kashalantes havu mishum de'ena kroshem v'esem mishosh chadi. De my time a mamzer pasal medina defashos. Why is a mamzer pasal from being on the judge of a dinei nefashos case? Mishum deba'in and chaf gimel. Because you need 23. Okay, so why can it be one of the 23? The Hainu Sanhedrin, because that's the 23 means the Sanhedrin. What does it say by the Sanhedrin? V'nasu itcha, they can be there with you. Bidomin lecha, miyuchasim kemoscha. So what the Gemara here is learning, again, it's a little bit of a stretch. Not that I should say that, but the Gemara seems to be saying that having 23 judges and not everybody being kosher is one and the same. It's not exactly one and the same. One is telling me you have to have 23 judges, and one is saying not everybody's kosher. But the Gemara is saying that maybe one could count it in the Havamina as one and the same, because the fact that a mamzer is puzzled to judge a dinei nefashos is learned from both. Why? Hakok sherim, that excludes a mamzer. The 23 excludes a mamzer because the 23 is doma to a Sanhedrin, and by a Sanhedrin it says that it needs to be somebody who's like you to exclude a mamzer. Says the Gemara, ha'ika achrisi. That's nice, but there are other people that are excluded from Hakok Sherim. So even if it's a mamzer, you can say the mamzer really 23 and Hakok Sherim are one and the same. But there are other people that are excluded from Hakok Sherim. Who else cannot be a judge of Dinei Mamanos in Dinei Nefashos besides for a mamzer? Even though they're allowed to be a judge in Dinei Mamanos, says the Gemara, Ein Moshir Sanhedrin Zakein, an older person who can no longer have kids, or visaris, a person who is never able to have kids, umisha ein labanim, and somebody that doesn't have kids. Very fascinating. So a zakein, person who doesn't remember what it's like to have kids, cannot be on the beit din. Why do you think a zakein and a person that never had kids and a person who can have kids, why do you think they can't be on the beit din? Says the Gemara, because you learn rachmanas when you have children. And we want to have only people who learn rachmanas. So you can't be on the beit din if you're past the stage of having children. Rabbi Yehuda Mosif Af Achzari. And Rabbi Yehuda says that even an Achzari, now I can't tell you exactly what age that was. It could be that a zakein who has grandchildren, etc. But the point is that the zakein, saris, somebody who never had children, for sure cannot be on the beit din because we're missing that rachmanas in them. Rabbi Yehuda Mosif Af Achzari. Rabbi Yehuda is Mosif even a person that has a big temper. Because again, we want to make sure that people that are on the beit din by a case of dinei nefashos are going to be extremely careful and try to look for the schus. And if you have these type of people without rachmanos, they're not going to. Says the Gemara, like we said the other day, v'chilupein b'mesis. And when you're dealing with somebody who's being accused of getting other people to do avodah-zarah, it's the exact opposite. To Rachman Amar lo tachma v'lo tchasalav. What do you do when you have a case of a mesis? You dafka look for people that never had children and people that are achzarim. You dafka want to make sure that he gets convicted, and therefore you look for people that have no rachmanas and people that are very, very achzari. Okay. I'm sure we could all think of people that are achzarim who shouldn't be on the beit din. Hakok share in London dinei mamanos. Hopefully not. Everybody is kosher to be dan dinei mamanos. What's the hakol? Hakol always includes people. Hakol asuye mai. Amar Yehuda lasuye mamzer. You would have thought that a mamzer for sure can't be dinei nefashos, as we said, but you might have thought that a mamzer cannot be on dinei mamanos either. Hakol, even a mamzer. Hatanina chadazimno. You already said kol aroy ladun dinei nefashos, roy ladun dinei mamanos. V'yesh roy ladun dinei mamanos, v'roy ladun dinei nefashos. Once you can judge on a dinei nefashos case, you can definitely judge on a dinei mamanos case. But there are some who can't judge on a dinei mamanos, who can judge on a dinei mamanos and can't judge dinei nefashos. V'avina ba lasuye mai, v'amar Yehuda lasuye mamzer. So it seems like you have two separate mishnayos which are both saying that a mamzer can be on a case of dinei mamanos, just not on dinei nefashos. Says the Gemara, what do you need two of those for? No. It's not both of them, including mamzer. Chadel asuye ger v'chadel asuye mamzer. You have two separate limud. One tells me that a ger, a convert, can be a judge on a dinei mamanos case, and one tells me that a mamzer, who one of his parents or the parents were not supposed to get married to each other, they can be on a dinei mamanos case as well. What do you need both for? Utzricha, wouldn't you know that if a ger can be one, then a mamzer can be one, and if a mamzer can be one, a ger can be one? Says the Gemara, if I only told you that a ger can judge dinei mamanos, I would say the reason a ger can judge them is because even though they're a ger and their parents are not Jewish, Lamaisa, once they convert, they can marry anybody, as opposed to a mamzer who can only marry certain people. Says the Gemara, if you tell me a mamzer, then I would say maybe a mamzer can do it because at the end of the day, even though they can't marry certain people, their parents were still kosher yidden. Even though they married people that they shouldn't have married, they were still kosher yidden. Maybe he should not be able to go ahead and judge dinei mamanos even. So therefore you need both to say hakol ksherin, whether a mamzer or a ger, they're all kosher to judge dinei mamanos, but not dinei nefashos. Ve'en hakol ksherin ladun dinei nefashos. My time, or what's the reason that there are certain people that can't judge dinei nefashos? Again, what did we say in the Mishnah? We said in the Mishnah, anybody, a Kohen, a Levi, and a Yisrael Hamasin lekahuna. Yisrael who has children who are fit to be married into the kahuna. Says the Gemara, my timer. Why? What's the problem? The Tani Rav Yosef Ushem shebezdin menukim betzedek. Just like bezdin has to be clear from any issues with tzedek, kach menukin mikol mum. They need to be clear from any mum. And a person whose child cannot marry into the Jewish, cannot marry Kohanim, is not clear from mum. Says Gemara, I understand. Amar Meimar Mikra. What's the problem with having a judge whose children are not clear from mum? Kulach yafarasiu mum ein bach. You can't have any mumin. It says b'dilma mum mamish. What does that mean? Maybe that doesn't have anything to do with your children. Maybe that doesn't have to do with a spiritual mum. Maybe that's a physical mum. You want to be a judge, you can't have a physical mum. You need to look beautiful. You need to look nice to be a judge. But if you have a spiritual mum, if you have something that's wrong with the mishpacha, with the yichus, you could still be a judge. Says Gemara, Amar Vacha Bar Yaakov, Amar Kra, no. It's not a physical mum, it's a spiritual mum. Why? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when he's getting dayanim, he tells to Moshe Rabbeinu they should stand there with you. Imcha bidomin lecha. He should stand there with you, that they should be similar to you. And just like you, Moshe Rabbeinu, don't have any spiritual wounds, don't have any spiritual mumin, they too cannot have any spiritual mumin. Says the Gemara, V'dilma hasam mishum shchina. Yeah, but when they were appointing judges originally with Moshe Rabbeinu, we know that these weren't just stam judges. These were judges who judged the Jewish people, but they were also judges who the Shekhinah literally came and rested upon. So maybe when it came to people who the Shekhinah is going to come literally rest upon, not that the Shekhinah doesn't rest upon all judges, but the Shekhinah literally came and rested upon those judges had to be clear from any spiritual mum, but maybe in future generations they didn't have to be clear from any spiritual mum. Says the Gemara, El Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, Amar Kravin Nasu Itcha, when Yisro came and said you should have judges, and those judges did not have, quote unquote, this Shekhinah Bishora upon them, nevertheless, he said it should be itcha bedom and l'chalahave. They have to be like you, and again, therefore, they have to be like Moshe Rabbeinu, clear from any spiritual womb. L'maisa, fine. Zok the Mishnah. 5 more minutes. Sanhedrin haisa gechatzi goren agula kadesha yiyu roin zed zeh. We have only shorter. Well, I have shorter time in the first stuff tomorrow, so got to make up a little bit of ground. Sanhedrin is like gechatzi goren agula kadesha yiyu roin zed zeh. When the Sanhedrin was sitting, the 23. There were 3 different options. They could either sit as a circle, or they could sit as a line, or they could sit as a semicircle. Says the Gemara, they stood as a semicircle so that they could see each other. Because if they're in a line, then certain people on the line cannot see each other. If they're in a circle, then what's the problem? Says Rashi, the edim and the beit-din have to be facing the judges and facing all the people. They have to be facing the 23 judges. So the only way to have the edim and the beit-din facing the 23 judges and have the judges all see each other is to have a semicircle. Says the Gemara, now there's a machlokes. There were either 2 or 3 people that were taking notes. One person, the Tanakama says, you had 2 people taking notes, and they were both taking the same notes. They were writing everything that was mizaka, anything that any of the judges said that should make the guy zocha, to make him prater, and anything that they wrote to make him chayv. And they had 2 different people taking notes so that they can compare the notes. Comes on Yehuda and says, ridiculous, shlosha. It's too much work if somebody needs to write down everything. And he's going to get overwhelmed and he's going to forget things. So you have 3 people. One guy writes down all of the arguments for, let's say for guilty. One of them writes down all the arguments to be innocent. And one guy, and the third guy will write down everything. Yes, his hand will get tired. Yes, he'll miss a few things. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. He's the backup. So now, if you want to review the case, you're going to review the notes of the guy who said pater. You're going to review the notes of the guy who said chayiv, who were able to take perfect notes because they weren't having to write down every single thing. If there's any problems with reading their handwriting, then you can check with the third guy. But at the end of the day, that's what you need 3. Says the Gemara finally, Ushlo shuro shel talmidei chachamim yoshin lifnan. Now, what happened when you had a beit-din? So Rashi explains, you had 23 on the beit-din. How many backups did we need, if you remember? 48 backups, up to 71. Once you get to 71, you never go bigger than 71. But again, if we can't come to a conclusion where there's 2 who are saying more than the other one for chova, then the Lamaisa you keep adding and you keep adding and you keep adding, or if they get sick, you keep adding until 71. 71 is the maximum amount because you can't go greater than the Sanhedrin Gadol. Let's do the math. 23 sitting there in a thing. No, 23 if you hold 72. But we're assuming 71. So you have 23 here. How many backups do you need just in case? You need to pull them out to use them, to add them. 48. Well, what do? You have 23 like this. Now, how do you split up 48 people? So if you have 48 people, you could argue you make 2 rows of 24, but what's the problem with that? You can't have the row of backups. It's amazing how sensitive they were to everything. You can't have the row of backups greater than the row of judges. So what do? 23, 23, and 2. That doesn't look good either. That's not fair for the 2 guys in the back. So what do? 23, 23, 23, even though the last 21 have no chance of ever being selected to be on the beit-din. Nebuch for those 21. V'shalosh they were still one of the greatest people of the generation. V'shalosh shel talmidei chachamim yoshin lifnan kol echad ve'echad makir es mekomo hutzrechu lismoch somchen min harishona. Now again, there's 2 possibilities why we would pull somebody. We would either pull 2 people. Usually we added by 2. Either we would pull 2 people, or if one of them got sick, right? If we got to a deadlock, 12 versus 11, then we'd have to pull 2 more people. And we kept doing that unless we came to, again, an agreement where there's 2 more, where there was somebody winning by 2. But at the end of the day, the other possibility, which is what the Gemara seems to be going like, is when somebody got sick. You had 23 and one of them had to leave. So how do you figure out who gets pulled? Well, they're in order now of greatness. So what do? Echad min hashniya, balo l'rishona. Echad min hashlishis, balo l'shniya. Borim lehen od echad min hakal, u'moshivin aso b'shlishis, v'lo haya yoshe b'mekomo shel rishon, ela yoshe b'makom haraylo. First of all, Rashi explains that the judges would sit on chairs, and these 3 rows would sit on the floor. But basically what happened was you had 3 rows. I don't know exactly if it was the front left or the front right, but the greatest guy was here, and then it would go in order. and it would go like this. So what would happen? You'd have to pull away one of the 23, so this guy's next in line. He gets pulled up. Now the new guy obviously doesn't just go sit. The easy thing would be for the new guy to just go sit in his seat. But that's not the way it works, because everybody's got to be makir the makom. So musical chairs, everybody moves down one. One guy from the second row, the highest guy in the second row, moves down to the end of the first row. Those guys all move down. The last guy the first guy on the third row moves down to the second row. They all move down, and then one guy off of the street, not just a guy off the street, comes and he's put into the end. And Lamaisa, that's the way that it continued any time they needed to do. But again, the beauty is that they were so sensitive to all of the details that they would continue in the order of godless, and they would always go ahead and you would take the guy next to you. And Lamaisa, that's how it continued until they came to a verdict.